So that's quite interesting. Two trains have collided at Bedfordshire. And that always reminds me of the film Denzel Washington, Unstoppable, an east-west on an precision engineered unstoppable collision course with deadly consequences. And it does also remind me of the War of the Worlds 2, where Tom Cruise is at the railway level crossing and a burning train comes through the town or through the city. So we're all in this War of the Worlds. We can certainly all take a very big hit. And in the Great Train Stoppers incident, often have you Google Johnny Botwright, and the report there is completely false. I used no threatening or abusive behaviour. Had a big run-in with Mark Simpson, 6'4", big gorilla, transport police officer on his way to London, not in uniform, throwing his weight around. So I did have to back him off. We certainly weren't avoiding tickets. We were in the carriage that's adjacent to the guard's van where the conductor is. It's only about 10 foot. It's only a few seats, and then half of it is the guard's van and half of it is seats, and that's where we were. And I was lying down by the heater. I was pretty all in. We'd been up all day and up all night in Norwich. We weren't causing any scene or any problem. I was just laying asleep by the heater. Thought I'd get 40 minutes waiting for the train to leave Norwich and then into this. I just get my head down for 40 minutes. And I was just facing the bulkhead by the heater where you put the wheelchairs. Obviously there weren't any wheelchairs there. So Mark Simpson woke me up, grabbing my arm, excuse me, and said, "Have you got a ticket?" And this is 5 o'clock in the morning. I only had a £50 note on me. Brian had £175 on him. I didn't even know they were like ticket machines. You can get a ticket on a train. It's only a £5 train journey at the time. So I sort of woke up and said no. He didn't say, "Do you want a ticket?" He just said, "Have you got a ticket?" When I said no, he said, "Right, I'm putting you off at the next station." I said, "Well, you can if you want." I said, "Because I live there." And then because I got my back to him and he's just gripping my arm. And then he went, "And I'm a police officer." I said, "Well, whoopie-doo." So anyhow, he took his big gorilla hand grip off my arm. So I come to, so I started to get up to sort of ticket out. And then he went, "Stay down." Well, I weren't under arrest, I weren't cautioned. Then he tried to push my face into the heater, and I got enough leg push to push up. Then he was fully on my back, and he was a big block of a man, like 6'4". So then his feet are fully off the floor and he's on my back, so I managed to spin him off my back. Then he grabbed me with his big gorilla hands, tried to strangle me with his big psycho eyes staring in my face. So then I backed him off and he ended up upside down in the seats. And then he got out of seats when we were like face to face. I didn't cross the line, but if he crossed the line, fair enough, we'll go for it. But he didn't, and then he shouted. At that time the manager and the stewardess had also come to the door, and there was a train driver also sitting in the carriage on his way to London too. So he went, "Call for backup, call for backup." So, and then the conductor was standing there like a wet lemon. So I said to him, "Why do you let this big gorilla loose in here? You know, you could have just asked for a ticket. That ain't a problem." Again, Brian had £175 on him. I had a £50 note on me, and it's only a £5 train journey. So then Mark Simpson stormed off. The conductor's standing there like a wet lemon. Then he walks off. So the train, they stopped the train just outside of this on the little bridge, about 200 metres from this train station. And you never seen so many blue lights coming up there. There were more police than what there were in the great train robbers incident. So I thought, well, we aren't going to stay on here and get set up. So we hopped off the train. Well, I hopped off the train, and Brian Numbnuts Goodman said, well, I'll come too, and he jumped out and fell all in the bushes. So anyhow, well, we went over by the wood and watched them storm the train. They thought they were like the SAS, running around like headless chickens, looking all around the train, on the top of the train, trying to find us, slamming all the doors, clear, going through there like they were the SAS or something. We just stood there, watched them again, running around like headless chickens. So then we made our way home, and I said, well, Brian, well, let's double back. They'll expect us to go down this way. And he said, no, I'll make it. So I hid in the conifers, because there was vans and dogs coming across the fields and everything. So Brian hid in some bushes near Peter Gillen's, and they were coming. And then a police minibus pulled up full of transport police. So amusing. I'm in the conifers watching them. They can't see me, and I'm above the ground. And then Terry phoned Brian, so his mobile phone went off. So all the police, so he's hidden in the bushes, but his mobile phone goes off. And then they all pour out the van and jump on him and drag him off. So I made it home, went to bed, 10:30. This is like 6 in the morning, but at 10:30, knock on the door, and normally there's like 3 or 4 coppers. So I just come down my Y front so they could see I wasn't armed or anything. And they knocked on the door. The dog was barking a bit, so I just backed off the dog. And they said, Mr. Botwright, you know why we're here? And I said, well, you hope you didn't all come round for breakfast. And I said, well, it was your man causing the problem, not me. And then again, there's normally 3 or 4 coppers. But then the one behind the sergeant at the door and the other couple of coppers shouted to some more police, said, get round the back, cover the back. And I said, well, where does he think I'm going in my Y-fronts? He thinks I'm going to be running around this in my Y-fronts, really? So, and they sent 13 police officers to arrest me. So I was like in CID, I was like, didn't know there's so many police in Norfolk. Why such a big show of strength? And obviously this police, Inspector Numbnuts Bunton, Mr. Fix-It, liar, pants on fire, told him I was the big mad psycho serial killer. So they sent 13 police to arrest me, so it was really amusing. And then I went to magistrate, and I was found guilty because I didn't show any remorse. I said, well, that's what the judge said, and he's the local magistrate. Scout leader in, don't know if it's in this, but he's a scout leader with the Queen's Award. And again, a lot of the scout leaders who were given Queen Awards were grooming young boys for the Freemason fraternal. So I got found guilty because I didn't show any remorse. And I said, well, why should I show any remorse? He jumped. I said, if I walk out of this court and someone jump on my back like he did, I'll remove them too. So then I went to Crown Court, and I forget what the reason was, but they had the loophole. I got found guilty again. So the Criminal Review Commission took up my case and said, according to the statements of his own witnesses, nothing that I said or Terry or Brian, according to the witnesses of his own statements, proved that he acted outside the execution of his duty. That was battery and assault against myself, and I'd only acted in self-defense with appropriate force just to back him off, the big gorilla. And so they done me a really good case, put it back into Crown Court. So I went back into Crown Court again, red robe high judge, and he wouldn't allow the clerk to take the case file from the Criminal Review Commission. They wouldn't even look at the new evidence that they were presenting. that cleared my name and clearly said that I should be acquitted. You know, I'd only acted in self-defence with the appropriate force. There was no justice. I was guilty even before I walked in the court, even though I hadn't committed any crime. I'd only acted in self-defence. And then this red robe judge claimed that I used too much force to remove the big gorilla from myself, which weren't the case. I only used appropriate force to back him off, and then he went down in the seats, but his legs were against the seat. So when you push against someone and the legs against the seat, they soon go down. So it ended up costing me, with court costs, I had to do 80 hours community service with loss of earnings. Court costs cost me £2,000 for a £5 train journey. And at that time you could go on a world cruise for like £600, £700. So I could have gone on 3 world cruises for a £5 train journey, but that, you know, I was the fool guy. So he committed the crime, walked away scot-free. I even had to pay him a £100 compensation because he lost a button off his girl's blouse and claimed he'd hurt his back when he went down in the seats, which is just all put on. So again, I took the fall. He committed the crime. He walked away scot-free. I was made to take the fall. So when you Google Johnny Botwright and you see the Criminal Review Commission case, and that says, you know, Johnny Botwright used an abusive, but when you read further into it, there was no evidence of that whatsoever. And all they did, I don't know if they took a different oath to me. The manager told the truth, but he didn't say anything because he was talking to the stewardess in like the little compartment in the guard's van, and there's like sliding door, then there's the big metal door. So they were in there. But he's the only one who told the truth. The others, I don't know if they took a different oath to me. They told everything but the truth. Now the conductor reckoned I called him a cunt. It's a word I never used, just a big monster lie. And I provoked the attack, just a monster lie. The stewardess, who weren't even in there when the incident happened, who was talking to the manager in the guard's van, claimed I took swings at Mark Simpson. Again, that never happened. That was all lies. Mark Simpson claimed that me and Brian tried to force the door and get into the guard's van and attack him. That was a load of lies too, because there was a driver sitting right near the door to the guard's van. He was on his way to London, who made no mention of anything such incidents. I was just totally railroaded, completely stitched up, made to take the fall. £2,000, 80 hours community service. And again, he committed the crime, walked away scot-free. So no justice, just us. But that was the great big train stoppers incident in this. So, and on another occasion, we was up against 11 police officers in Mere Street, and again they attacked me from behind, then claimed I attacked them, that I punched, kicked, head-butted them and put one of them down. That was just all a big monster lie. And that went to a 2-day trial at Thetford. It's going to be 1 day at Thetford, 1 day at Swaffham. They brought in a special judge. But the only thing these police officers had overlooked, and you would have thought, one police officer wrote one statement and photocopied the other 10 copies. Their case was watertight. But the only thing these police officers overlooked was a man standing in what was Siddle's shoe shop then in Dis, waiting for a lift from his wife, who saw what really happened. And he come up to me, he saw me in Dis and come up to me and he said, I'm absolutely appalled at what I saw you subjected to. I said, did you see that? He said, that was appalling. He said, I heard him banging your head against the wall and on the concrete and, you know, steaming into you. And, you know, and I said, from behind. He said, yeah. I said, well, they reckon that I attacked them. He said, no, they attacked you from behind. I said, well, would you be willing to be a witness for me to prove they're lying? He said, yeah, because I will. So anyhow, we got to court. 11 police officers and their barrister. You going down, Botwright? I said, well, we'll see. The duty solicitor come in, had read up on the case, and he said, look, Johnny, whatever you do, you're looking at 6 to 12 months in prison. Whatever you do, don't appeal to Crown Court because you'll get double the time. I said, well, we'll see. But I said, I've got a witness who can prove that they're lying. And the one who was roughing me up the most in Mere Street, the only way, because I was handcuffed and he was roughing me up, the only way I could back him off was knee him in the groin. And that said on my police report, bruised into his inner thigh, but that's the only way I could back him off. Again, he was roughing me up. And my hands were handcuffed behind my back. So anyhow, so I've got a witness, he can prove their statements are false and they're going to perjure himself if they take the stand. But the duty solicitor worked for the same company as the barrister, so he went shooting off, told the barrister, whatever you do, you know, they go on the stand, they're going to be perjured himself. He's got a credible witness, he can prove their statements are false. So at the trial, they suddenly dropped all charges and I was free to go. Even though, again, I'd need a police officer in self-defence in the groin to back him off. And I walked away, you know, free to go. All charges dropped. And that was at the trial, just before the trial began. But if that man hadn't been standing in that shop doorway on their fabricated evidence, then I would have gone to prison for 6 to 12 months. Just on a big, you know, pack of lies. So I'm not anti-police. There's some really good police officers around, and I met plenty of them also, but I am very anti-police frames and fixes. And again, no Clockwork Orange, Norwich train station, mountain bike Rapist, as always. I was on a woman's black Dutchy bike, not a mountain bike, but all rolled into the black shroud of Sandringham just to set me up further. So no Sandringham serial killer, black wizard, terrorist, issue. I really don't think so. So just another big monster con, one big Norfolk Bacon SS, dismiss and cancel. Porky Pie, serial killer lie, in order to cover up a high crime. Royal Blue Murder, certainly not mine. So no Red Car, Michael Dunn, Michael Sands. Sutcliffe, Steve Wright, Wayne Cousins, Brady Huntley, Fred West. Black Panther, serial killer here. That's Leanne Jones's car. You can see Leanne Jones. Did get some very strange messages from her in the past on Facebook. So they'll set you up as a red car Michael Dunn, Michael Sands, to get you done in or boxed up, locked up. Throw away the key, but it's all to cover up high crimes. Royal Blue Murder, and certainly not mine. So, frames and fixes. And that's interest with Andrew Mitchell too on the Channel 4 interview, Plebgate. And Andrew Mitchell, you can see the video on YouTube. And Andrew Mitchell explains, he said, the most important thing to know about a police SS set up, fit up, stitch up, cover up, is you can't get out of it. He had a fighting chance because he was a cabinet minister, Parliament, national TV and media. But he said a man off the street like me, a nobody like me, not a framed, fixed black cat in hell's chance, and certainly no black cat, copycat. Black Cat of Burston, son of Sam, Sandringham serial killer here. Really don't think so. Again, one big monster con, one big monster bluff, one big Porky Pie, serial killer lie, one big monster gaff, epic fail, and that's why it is all online for the world to see free. So they say in the X-Files, the truth is out there. And that's interesting too, when you do put the truth, the proof, the evidence and the facts, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of choice, peaceful protest of innocence, then they have your social media accounts burned down. For exposing the truth, the corrupt powers to be do not want you to know, do not want you to see. So the truth versus a big monster lie in this Norfolk UK, two parallel stories. One is true, one is a monster lie. Africa, Dis, Norwich and Sandring. Again, I have the truth. Guess who has the big monster lie? All of this. They want everyone to believe is true, but never the case. 39 on all accounts. And certainly want their big monster lie to swallow and crush me. So never a bad thing to shine the light in the darkness. So Norfolk Coppers will set you up as a red car. Michael Dunn, Michael Sands, Sutcliffe, Steve Wright, Wayne Cousins, Brady Huntley, Fred West, Roy White and White Van Man, Christian B. And again, Steve Wright, the Suffolk Strangler, ritual killer, 5 girls murdered in Ipswich in 10 days. Some of them were found naked in a satanic pose. Steve Wright also may have been involved in the Ringland murders in Norwich, also 22 miles from here. This is right in the middle of Ipswich and Norwich. So a 22-year catch-22, complete abuse of power, position, authority and influence in public office. And Steve Wright has just been given another life sentence for the murder of Victoria Hall. 17-year-old girl who was murdered, found naked in a ditch, dating back to 1999. So a crime is a crime whenever it's committed, unless it's a high royal blue crime. New Year's Day fine, September blue murder, certainly not mine. And not me leaving the body of a 17-year-old sex trafficked girl on the Royal Sandringham Estate, Killenfields. Late Prince Philip's favourite hunting area. See Prince Harry the Spare for details. Anyhow, God bless, take care.